What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you've landed yourself once again at Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. We've got a special guest for you this evening. We have Mr. Tory Johnson Senior, father, proud father of new West Virginia University commit, Tory Johnson Jr. How are we doing, Tory?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful tonight. How's it going, Paul?
Doing good, man. Really good. We've got a little bit of delay, but we can work with that. Um, so let's just jump right into this. You're a proud dad. Tell us a little bit about your son, how he got to where he's at. Uh, you talk about how much work this kid's put in, and what do you expect from him in the future?
Oh yeah, Tori's an amazing kid. He was down there at Oscar Smith. He played his 4 years in high school. He did well there. He made all state team. Played receiver, tight end. He just worked hard, and he ended up going to a WVU camp 2 years ago. Really impressed the coaches, and then he came back this year and went to camp, and they offered him a scholarship, and he committed. And he stayed down, worked hard, had an amazing senior year, and now he's a signee for the Mountaineers.
Awesome, man. And you're no stranger to that process yourself. Take me back in time and tell me how that process was for you. Were you a highly rated kid like your son, or did you have to work to get where you were? We know you played tight end at WVU. Tell us a little bit about your time. Uh-oh. It's like I've lost him, guys. We'll wait and see if he comes back. Sorry about this, y'all. I've been trying for days to get this thing set up. Seems like it's been one issue after another, whether that be on my end or on his end. So try to stick with me and see if he shows back up, guys. Apologies. Uh, let's see if we got any questions coming in down here. No comments. Says there's some people in here. Let me know if you're in the chat, guys. There we go. Hey, David. I don't know what happened to him, David Cummings. I was asking him a question and he bounced right out. I don't know if he was having connection issues or what was going on there. So I'm hoping he jumps back on. Let me see if he sent me a message over here. No. Well, this sucks. You guys want to talk about what happened with Amari Gaynor? Want to talk about the Clint Trickett situation? We can dive into it. How do you guys feel about Amari Gaynor? And if you paid attention to him on social media, it seemed like he maybe used West Virginia as a stepping stool. Curious to know how you guys felt about that. He even posted things like 333, which was his number in high school, alongside of Garrett Green's number in high school. He was using Bible verses with 333. He even made the time of his commitment at 333, leading a lot of WVU fans to believe that he was going to come there. I had other knowledge that was given to me from some people in the media in Morgantown, but I still didn't think it was fair to the fans that were really hopeful he would come. So I'd like to know how some of you guys feel about that. Are you upset about that? Does that make you angry? Do you feel like he can do whatever he wants to do? I'd like to know what people think about that. Oh, here's Tory again, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
That's my.
Tory.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, brother? Yeah, that's a lot better.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we go.
Okay, we'll get back to where I was at just a minute ago.
Okay.
So, transport me back in time. Not that long ago, right? Just a few years ago.
Yeah.
You were a young kid. You were in college. Did you have a star rating? Were you highly touted, or did you have to work to get where you were at with WVU?
Yeah. Well, back then they didn't have the star system, I guess. But I was an All-American. So
Okay.
I guess that would equate to like a 4 or 5 star. But I'm from Florida. I went to South Broward High School. That's where I was recruited by Doc Holliday and Coach Don Nealon. And they brought me to West Virginia. Then I guess the rest is history from there.
Tell us the stories about Doc Holliday, man. I hear he's one of the best recruiters out there.
Oh yeah, man. The funny thing about Doc, like I'm from like Dania, Hollywood area, but in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And Doc will come down here like in the hoods of Miami, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and to people's houses, to parents, meet with parents. And he wasn't afraid. And man,
Right.
and he would come get us. When I was on the team, it was like 28 of us from the state of Florida on that team.
Wow, man. And you know what? So the WVU teams that have had any success, that's usually been how it's been. A large
Absolutely.
number of Florida people on the team. You think back to Gino, and
Yes.
even when Major and those guys were playing, they had Florida guys.
Absolutely.
So you played with Rasheed Marshall, correct?
Yes.
Who else did you play with that played quarterback at WVU? Was it just Rasheed Marshall?
When I first got there, it was Mark Bolger.
Okay.
Then it was Brad Lewis, and then Rasheed.
Wow, man. And you were you were a physical player. You were really basically an extra offensive lineman. Well, most of the time you were there, correct? You were laying the wood to guy.
Yeah, especially when Rich Rodriguez came in, we ran a lot of zone. We were actually number 2 leading rushing team in the nation.
Now I have a question about that. We're kind of getting a little off topic, but it's my show, so who cares, right? The zone read option. I was arguing with somebody a couple weeks back. Who created it? Who created the zone read? Was it Rich Rod? Some people think that it's come from other trees. But there are people that think Rich Rod created that at Glenville in the 80s or early 90s. But there are also people that think other guys created it. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, Rich Rodriguez, he had his own version of it. There were a couple of guys that also ran it, but Rich Rodriguez, he did have his version down in Glenville, and it really took off when he was the offensive coordinator in Clemson when he had Woody Dantzler as the quarterback.
Right,
So
right,
he made
correct.
his fame there.
Forgot about Dantzler, man. Those are some good teams.
Yes, sir.
So, is this a similar offense to, as far as the simplicity of it, to what they consider the spread passing attack the teams use nowadays? How you hear Dana Holgerson or Graham Harrell say, "Listen, we've got like a handful of plays we run. We just dress them up in different formations." And I was just curious if are those pretty simple offenses both?
Yo, absolutely. It was the same terminology, like same concept. Like same plays, but they just dress them up.
Zone blocking schemes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting.
They simplified the offense.
Do you think Rich Rod would succeed if he came back to WV for a second run, or as I have a couple friends that think that it's almost never a good idea to bring a coach back for a second run. You see what Schiano's doing at Rutgers. It almost never works. Randy Edsel went back to UConn. He didn't succeed.
Yeah.
But, man, I don't know if I'd bet against that Rich Rod guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see him succeeding if he were back there, especially with that zone offense, man, because you're always right. Like the man blocking scheme is way harder. The zone, you have 4 or 5 cutback lanes. You find your good back, and a good running back, man, you can succeed in it.
And they have one right now in C.J. Donaldson, who I'm assuming
Absolutely.
you
He's
know
from down
about.
here.
Yeah, he's from down that way. I actually had his coach from Gulliver Prep on here on my show. Really nice guy, man. Really intense dude. He had nothing but great things to say about CJ. He said CJ was bound for greatness. And, you know, to switch from tight end to never play running back in your life and to rip off a 56-yard run against Pitt like that in the backyard brawl, the first carry you ever get, that's big time.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So I'd like to see what he would do in a Rich Rod offense, you know, but that's all. From what we hear, we're going to move back towards a little bit more of a running scheme this year. We'll see. They're bringing in tight ends like your son. So what are the expectations for Tory this year? Do you think it's going to be a developmental year for him? Do you think he wants to see the field early? Or do you think it's just up to him?
Yeah, I think it's just up to him. Well, from talking to him, he wants to play now because physically, he's ready. Like
he's a beast.
He has an unbelievable work ethic. Like I mean, his arms, his neck, like he already looks like he's a D1 player.
Right.
So it's going to be the mental aspect of him learning the plays and just getting on board with what the scheme is.
Interesting. Let's go to a question from the audience here. So David Cummings says, do you as a father of a very talented young man believe in this coaching staff to make your son better?
I do. And the reason I met these guys a few times on my visits, and we talked about it. They know football, and it's just a thing now of with this transfer portal and guys in and out. It's sort of tough. But
it is tough.
Yeah.
Neil Brown's had a hard time. He's had a hard time. I know all coaches have dealt with the COVID situation, and every coach has had to deal with the transfer portal. But it seems like, in a lot of ways, Neil has had it rough at WVU in his first few years, whether that be the mass exit of players that we've had. He got caught in the middle of the way he did things wasn't exactly how Dana Holgerson did things. Actually, a lot different. Right. And so I think a lot of those players that play for Dana were used to a certain culture. And then he comes in and he's probably a little more stringent from what I hear, which is whatever, however you coach. And so some guys left that really put him under the 8 ball, and he's had to try to build this thing with young players. And you look at the team this year and how it's constructed, even though there's not an experienced quarterback there, you look four starters that have been there for 2 years in a row now, and then they're going to have to get one other offensive lineman ready, but that's going to be 5 guys that have played a lot of football for the second year in a row coming back now. The wide receiver room is wide open, but the running back room is absolutely loaded. If some young players, your son, Rodney Gallagher, guys like that can hit, and then, like you said, the transfer portal, I really do believe this team can surprise some people this year. And Neil, he's basically in a situation where he kind of has to. And that leads into my next question for you. So were they honest with Tory about the situation and how things were playing out behind the scenes? Recruits aren't dumb. They knew that it was probably up in the air at one point, I'm assuming. Was this ever brought up, or did you guys ever talk about that?
Yeah, what's funny about that, because I paid attention to it more because I've been there, done that. And when I would talk to Tory about it, he wasn't really interested in like the logistics of the coaching staff, and he just wants to play football.
Yeah.
So he relied on me to see what's going on behind the scenes to help him make a decision.
And were the coaches pretty sure all along he was going to come back? From your conversations?
Yeah, they had a feeling that it was, but towards the end, I had a few conversations with coaches, and they led me to believe that he was going to have another year.
And that's everything I heard too. Not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah.
I can certainly cut any of this conversation out if you don't like it. But I just curious. I was just hadn't really had a father on, and I was curious to know exactly how that dynamic was because that's tough, man. You got a kid that's committed somewhere. The staff may or may not be there. It's your alma mater, so you want him to go there no matter really who the coaching staff is. It's
Right.
the university that you play for. At least you hope. But you got to have a coaching staff in there that you trust. So,
Right.
What type of offense would you like to see? Because we're still looking for an offensive coordinator. Trickett from Marshall came up and interviewed. Apparently, they didn't even get that far in talks. Decided to just not to approach it. Not exactly sure why. We know that all we know is that West Virginia didn't offer him the job, and he really didn't turn it down, whatever that means. So, but what way would you like to see the offense go going forward? Do you like the spread attack?
Yeah, I would like to see a variation of it. Like I would love Trickett to come back. I actually played for his father, both Tricketts.
Rick?
Played for their father, Rick Trickett. Yeah. So
Wow.
Yeah, so when we were up there at the camps, they were little kids. We used to run around when I was there. Now both of them are offensive coordinators. One's at Coastal, Clint's at Coastal. Travis is at Coastal and Clint's at Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty good to see, man. But I would love to see a balance. And with Tory, man, he's ready, man. He's ready to split out because they told him he was going to play the inside receiver and tight end. But he's ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think I see him doing much inline blocking like you had to do.
Right.
Not that he won't be able to at some point.
Right.
They'll probably put a little bit more muscle on him. I think he told me they wanted him to get up to 230, which is probably about 20, 25 pounds more than he is right now.
Absolutely, yes.
In that range.
Yes.
So that'll be a good. So do you think he'll lose any speed adding 30 more pounds, or do you think he'll be all right with it?
Yeah, I think he'll be all right because they have Mike Joseph, and he's the strength coach up there.
Yeah.
And
I know. We love him.
Yeah, he was a graduate assistant when I was there. So.
Really? Is he as intense as everybody says?
Oh, yeah. Mike Joe. Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man.
Yes,
so you've got another son, man, and we all expect big things from him. They call him Savage.
Yes,
where does that nickname come from?
Yeah, Savage is a beast, man. He's just naturally gifted, talented. He's a beast, man.
So he's playing at Oscar as well?
Yeah, he's at Oscar Smith. He was a freshman this year. He started like 4 or 5 games.
What kind of season did he have as a freshman?
Yeah, he made a few catches, had a few 3 or 4 touchdowns. But he did really well to be a true freshman on that team that's in the
absolutely
title championship run every year.
That's not a small school at Oscar Smith. It's a big school. So
it's a powerhouse.
So we're talking, that's just not something freshmen usually do,
Absolutely.
Like where I come from, we graduated with like 200 people in the senior class. So starting at that school is, if you can't start in a school with 200 players, you might want to hang it up,
Right.
So, but a school like where your kids are at, man, they probably got 3,000-4,000 deep, I would say, something like that there.
Right.
If not more. So you expect a lot out of him. And it looked like he got to come on the visit with Tory and take some pictures. How did he like that?
Oh yeah, he loved that, man. Like he's been going around lately on the unofficials. So he has 3 offers. He has 3 offers: Virginia Tech, Duke, and Marshall.
And Marshall, yep. So does he talk to Chris Henry? Chris Henry's son, any?
Yes. That's because he's with my former teammate Pac-Man Jones. So we
yeah. I'll tell you what, that kid's talented too.
Hey, he's a beast.
Chris Henry's son.
A beast.
I'll be interested to see. Some of my gut tells me he's not going to have. Do you think he'll want to come to West Virginia, Chris Henry's boy?
I see him with a lot of Ohio State gear on.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. That's a shame too, but Pac-Man's not going to try to force it on him, I'm sure.
No, he's going to let him make his decisions. Yep.
Which is how, I'm sure that's how you were with your boys.
Absolutely.
Boys too, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
You'd have been the biggest Virginia Tech fan in the world if you'd have went to Virginia Tech or wherever.
As much as it would have pained my eyes, for Pitt, Virginia Tech.
Oh man, that'd have been the worst case scenario at Pitt.
Yes,
Which one did you hate more, Virginia Tech or Pitt or Penn State?
Pitt.
Pitt, yeah. It's
Yeah.
got to be Pitt.
Yeah.
It's got to be Pitt.
Yes,
So, as a dad, how cool is it that your kid's going to get to play Penn State this year?
Yeah, man.
And
he
also
called me.
Pitt.
He called me. He told me, he was like, "Yeah, Dad, we play Penn State." I was like, "Wow," because his first unofficial visit was Penn State.
I'll tell you what blew me away when I talked to your kid. One of the things I wanted to ask him is we've heard about the facilities at West Virginia now and how they just absolutely put a lot into them. And he said the only facilities that might have been better than West Virginia's was Georgia's. That really took me off guard.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I didn't know they were on par with Georgia now. Well, it's exciting because unfortunately we've got NIL to deal with now. But back in the day, you're talking about facilities was like the top 2 or 3 things.
Right.
So you got to tour the facilities, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I didn't go to Georgia, but he had pictures of Georgia, man, and that was amazing. But when I came to West Virginia, I saw that locker room, man, the weight room, the training staff. West Virginia has come around full circle, and it's top notch in the country.
It's unfortunate that Rich Rod couldn't have got that when he was there, because that's what all he was asking for is what they have now.
Right.
And he wanted to take the next step. And you wonder, he had come from Clemson, and not too long after Rich Rod leaves, Clemson ascends to where they are now. They're a blue blood now,
Yes.
or as some people like to call it, a new blood, whatever though. Always just ask yourself, could West Virginia have been what Clemson is now had Rich Rod stayed? It's interesting. I always wonder about that because the way the program was heading. Some people think he just caught lightning in the bottom with White Slayton, and that he was always going to come back down to the 8 or 9 win mark. And maybe that's true, but it's it's always fun to think about and reminisce. So I guess you're going to be there at the Pitt game this year.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there. Yes.
Can't wait for them to play Sweet Carolina at Mountaineer Field.
Oh man, yes, we owe them big time, man. We're supposed to have that one.
We were, and in the 4th and 1 call gets talked about a lot, but there were a ton of other plays in that game that could have swung it. It never comes down to one play in a football game, almost never. So ask you a few more questions about your time as a Mountaineer, Tory, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Give me your favorite game in a Mountaineer uniform.
Oh. Wow. It'd probably have to be it's 2 of them. It's both Virginia Techs. My junior year and my senior year. When we beat Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech, we stopped Lee Suggs on the goal line on the 1 yard line, 4 downs. Grant Wiley, my roommate, jumped over the top of the pile and ankle tackled him and to give us the silver deal.
I remember it. Lee Suggs, in my opinion, growing up, Lee Suggs was the scariest running back that we played year in, year out. He was a dog, bro. And I mean, he was such an animal, and it's just so hard to tackle.
Right.
He reminded me a lot of I don't know if you remember another running back that played at Colorado around that time named Chris Brown.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He reminded me of him a lot. The guy, I think he actually went to the Heisman, but Brown did at Colorado. But yeah, man, that's who Suggs reminded me of. And I was surprised that he didn't have a better NFL career, to be honest with you. But it's so hard to predict what guys are going to do from the college because it's almost never talent. It's always upstairs. It's usually upstairs, something going on, whether it's maturity or mentally or whatever.
Right.
Did you go to the league and do anything?
Well, I had a couple trials with Buffalo, and then that's when I dislocated my shoulder, and then it was.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Trying to think of a couple more questions before we let you go. So you said your 2 favorite games were Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
tell us a couple stories about. So you were there when Marshall came up, right? For that game, or was that the year
No,
before?
that was right before me. That was like
Right
'97.
before you.
Yes.
That was in '97. So you came in '98.
Yeah, '99. Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you came in 2000. I apologize.
Yeah.
I researched you
Okay.
like a week ago, and we've had all these things happen. We've been trying to link up,
Right.
and I've got so much going on with my research. Some things pop out of my head,
Right.
so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
So we'll wish you guys the best of luck, man. We're really excited to have Tory on board, and he's probably gonna, when it's all said and done, in my opinion, I think he's going to be a part of one of the best recruiting classes in the history of West Virginia football.
Oh,
You go up and
absolutely.
down this recruiting class, and you see the players that Neil and those guys were able to get, and you are a guy that I would trust more than anybody. Just you can just look and see if a guy has D1 talent or not.
Right.
And if you're as much as a fan as I am, you probably went and checked out some of those highlight tapes of the players coming in. And there's kids, Jaheim White comes to mind.
Right.
Kid is an absolute monster. Obviously, Rodney Gallagher, everybody talks about as somebody that could be the next great slot receiver at West Virginia. But then you get into people that have pedigrees like Josiah Trotter,
Right.
whose dad is Jeremiah Trotter, one of the great linebackers in Philadelphia Eagles history.
Right.
And you get into the Ben Cutters of the world and the James Hurd Juniors of the world. And I mean, just so many great players in this recruiting class. I really think there's going to have multiple starters in year one and year two come early out of this recruiting class. And I think Tory's going to be one of them. I think he's going to contribute. I wouldn't be surprised to look at the end of the year and see he caught 20 to 25 balls in his freshman year, somewhere in that range, something like that. And who knows, maybe even more. He's a mismatch. So he's what you would consider a true in between right now. He's not a full-fledged tight end. He's not a full-fledged wide receiver. He's a mismatch.
Right.
So we're really excited to have him on board, man.
Yes, sir. That's awesome.
So is there anything you want to talk about? Any direction you want the conversation to go?
That's about it. I'm just glad for my son, man. Just as a father to see him follow me and then create his own path, but then still follow the legacy, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we could tell how proud you were of him by some of the things you're posting on social media. I'm assuming Mama is proud as well.
Absolutely, yes.
She man, that video they had of her dancing and stuff, that was cracking me up.
Oh yeah.
You could tell we're showing. I'm around your age, and she was doing the raise the roof.
Right.
I mean, we're showing our age now.
Yes, sir. That's the 40 over through there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, sir.
So, really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm a even bigger fan of yours now. You're such a nice guy, man.
I appreciate it.
It really warms my heart. If you'd have told me last year that I'd be talking to former Mountaineers, I'd have told you were crazy. You know, this has been a heck of a journey for me, and I've only been doing it for a couple months. You know, and it's just blown up on me. We've got a lot coming at me all at once. So I'm trying to let in what I should let in and keep out what I should keep out. So it's been fun, man. So I really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Before we let you go, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you as far as on social media and stuff like that?
Okay. On Twitter, you can find me at ToryJ448932. And then on Instagram, it's passion_soulmeals.com. That's my business. I do meal prep.
Oh, you do meal prep. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome, man. Well, talk to me after this and we'll talk about actually when I'm going to end this right now and we'll talk for a second.
Okay.
All right, guys, you've watched another episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over. I am out.